welcome to the Catholic Forge, a conversational podcast where we gather to explore our Catholic faith and discuss how it forms our lives. All are welcome to join in this conversation and journey. Thank you for listening. Hey everyone, welcome to the show. Welcome to the Catholic Forge. This is Eric in Missouri.
And this is Ben in Kentucky.
Well, here we are once again. And Ben, you've just been describing to me your day and how you're feeling a little rundown. Sounds to me like you've been busy.
You could definitely say it was a busy day.
Well, as the title of the episode suggests, we're talking about the lie of busyness. Now, at the forefront, I would like to mention that, if you listen back to the episode Body Issues in the Pursuit of Perfection, and I hope you would if you haven't listened to it yet, you'll notice at the top of the episode that we talked about how that was one of the OG topics for the Catholic Forge. That was one of the topics that sort of got us started, even though it took a while to get to. This is another one. This is one that I sort of threw into the mix. And what we're looking at in this episode is a consideration of modern culture, how we live our lives, especially with relation to that word, that prickly little word, busy.
Yeah.
So I can jokingly ask you, it sounds like you're busy, but I think that perhaps by the end of the episode, Ben, you might say, well, I really wasn't busy under this, kind of consideration. And so, what's the first thing that comes to mind when someone uses that word, or when you hear that word? What's the first thing you think of?
The first thing is doing something.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, because that they're doing something, that they've got something planned or are in the middle of something.
Right.
I mean that's right off the top of my head. First thing.
Yeah, and maybe there's some credence there of why we use the term busy beaver, because no one ever thinks of beavers laying around. Okay.
Right.
Plopping around. That's something
anti-busy.
Anti-busy. I said that in the pre-show and it made Ben laugh. That he said, "What did you say?" That was like the anti-busy sentiment.
Yeah,
so
if
someone asks
plop
you,
it's the opposite of busy. You're plopping around.
If somebody asks you, "Are you busy?" and you're not, then you say, "No, I'm just plopping around," because that's But you're right. This sense of being busy and staying active, I guess you could say, or you're always pursuing an objective, or you're going from A to B, or whatever it is. And I think, without consulting the Oxford or dictionary.com, I think that's a reasonable working definition for our sake. Would you agree, just for now?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Now, if you want to fact check and you want to go over there and take a look, I wouldn't hold it against you. But what I have been seeing and sensing, I think some of what we've all been seeing and sensing, at least in our country, I don't know about in the world, but in our country, in our time, is this sense that if you're not busy all the time, you're not doing it right. And what do I mean by that? I mean, you're not doing life right.
Yeah.
I guess, first of all, I don't know. First of all, I totally admit that I am possibly wrong. But I don't think I am. I've been having this sense, this kind of like spidey sense tingling for 2 or 3 years. I don't know how to shake it. And I just keep seeing it. It just folds over and upon itself over and over. Do you see this at all?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And no, I don't think you're wrong at all. And I can, like you said, I can sense it. I can feel it in my own life. It's kind of like you got dropped on a treadmill and you don't remember stepping on it. You don't necessarily remember consenting to it, but you just wake up one day and realize that you're running on it. And sometimes, someday, like today, if I'm feeling sorry for myself, like days like today, I feel like I'm not even in control of the treadmill. Like I don't even have access to the buttons to speed it up or slow it down,
Right. Yeah, for sure.
And then that's really frustrating for me. Then I get very resentful, like, kind of like that whose life is it anyway feeling, Right.
Yeah. As opposed to, like, I think yesterday and today kind of, but yesterday especially, I got in at like 10 and I got done at 7. I had a meeting at 5:30, was it, or somewhere in there, and it was like 5:20, and I looked up and I was like, it was just 10:30. You know, but it was that sense of, but then I like quickly looked back over all the things that I had accomplished, and I was like, that was a great day. You know, like I got done everything I needed to. I felt like I had accomplished well. And so there I might say that I stayed busy, but what I mean is I was on top of my tasks. You know, I was well organized, I was efficient and effective. But that's the thing is if someone had stopped me in the middle of the day and said, and actually this happened today 2 times, someone came into my office and wanted to talk to me, and the first thing they said was, "Are you busy?" And I said no, and I'll tell you more later about why I said no, even though I was like knee deep in a whole bunch of stuff. Okay.
Yeah, and jumping back, if I can
Please.
jump in on what you said there.
Let's get back. I shouldn't have rushed ahead. That's my fault. I'm sorry.
No, big deal. But yeah, that's a really good point. The difference, because you didn't use the word there. You said like efficient and all that, but you were being productive. And there's a big difference in being productive and being busy. And you can be insanely busy and not be productive at all. You know?
Oh, yeah.
In fact, for me, I don't multitask well. So the more you pile it on and the more I'm trying to multitask, anybody looking at me would say, man, that dude's busy. He's, like you said, he's doing it right. He's busy. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to have done a great job at anything because I'm overwhelmed and it's all chaos, you know? But like you, I've had that exact same feeling of days that have been super productive. And strangely enough, they're not stressful. You kind of finish the day with like a good feeling. You just know, like you said, you just know that you got done what you wanted to get done. Sure. You did it good. You did it right. And that doesn't drain me. But what drains me, like you said, is that feeling of just, I go back to the treadmill, the hamster on the wheel, you know, that's
sure.
You're kind of just, you're spinning your wheels, but you're not actually getting anywhere. And it angers me to even think about it.
And that may be part of the lie of busyness.
I think so, yeah.
Is that when you buy into it, you find that you really aren't doing much of anything at all, because you're not approaching your work or your life from that thoughtful, intentional perspective. But what I'm wondering is, how did we ever get to this place in our culture, in our society? I don't have a definitive answer. Okay, I would need to phone a friend or something like that to get down to, you know, what it really is.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing, I mean, if I had to throw a dart against the wall, that's not a good analogy. If I just had to pick for now something to work with, technology. First of all, there was a time, if you can believe this, Ben, there was a time when light was not available after the sun went down.
Yeah.
If you can imagine, if you can imagine such a world where when the sun went down, that was the end of light. You know, there were no flashlights, you know, or lanterns. You know, it's like maybe you built a fire, but do you see where I'm going?
Oh yeah. Interestingly, I lived like that for about 2 weeks. In 2009, a massive ice storm hit Western Kentucky, where I was living at the time. I mean massive. Okay. We were without power for 2 straight weeks.
No.
I mean, and everyone within like a 30-mile radius. So there was no just going to the neighbor's house or something. It was widespread. And like what you're saying, yeah, and we had flashlights and lanterns and all that, but we found ourselves going to bed at like 7:30. Literally after a couple of days, your body just shifted to that different schedule of like,
wow,
you know, being in sync with the sun. Like, all right, well, it's dark and it's kind of inconvenient to do things right now, so we're just going to go to sleep.
Absolutely. And I think that points to this. I know I'm kind of far reaching and I'm willing to be wrong about it, but it seems common sense to me that part of what we now call the Industrial Revolution had so much to do with the advent of the light bulb, or with light sources that could burn in the evening because you could work later. I mean, it's simple enough, you know. You can take light into the night, so you can stay up later and you can work and do all these things. So so that's where I'm going to start with technology. But now, of course, if we come to the current day and we look at how we consume technology, rapid, really rapid, fast-paced, immediately. There's no delay. There's little to no buffer on how we take this into our life. And I think that immediately shows itself in the way that we live life, that we're frantic, we're fast-paced, we're all over the page. But instead of saying frantic, fast-paced, all over the page, we say we're busy. So forgive me for kind of jumping that gap, but if we're trying to look at how we got to the place we're in, I think that technology is going to be a considerable factor.
Oh, I think you're dead on. And interesting, you mentioned artificial light. The man, largely responsible for that, Thomas Edison, is credited with only sleeping 3 or 4 hours a night. So it's kind of like
he was busy. Yeah.
And I don't know much about, I haven't read extensively on Edison or anything. So
yeah, I'm
wondering though, it's kind of a chicken or the egg question. Did he want that artificial light to facilitate his sleepless lifestyle? Like, man, I'm up all night. I wish I could see. Or did that lifestyle kind of come after his invention? I don't know, but it'd be interesting to know.
I don't know. I just watched. Have you ever seen The Prestige? You ever seen that movie?
Yeah, I like that.
What a great movie! And in the movie, David Bowie famously plays Tesla. What was his first name? Tesla's first name? I can't remember.
But yeah, kind of like a mad scientist type.
Yeah, and Tesla ends up building the machine that, I wouldn't spoil it. If you haven't seen it, it is delightful.
Yeah. It's Hugh Jackman, Christian Bale. It's
Christopher Nolan with Christian Bale before Batman, or maybe after the Dark Batman Begins.
I think it was before.
I don't know. But oh my gosh, it's good. Anyway, in the movie, you get a look into the kind of the little boxing match between Edison and Tesla with alternating current and direct current.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And they were having this little thing. But what you saw is Tesla's pursuit of that style of electricity, that kind of light source, was more about his own gain. Like, he just wanted to do it so that he was the one who did it, that he felt that his model of technology was superior. So I don't know if Edison was after, like, if people were like buying into his technology so they could increase their efficiency in their factories. This is kind of here or there.
Yeah, no, it's a good point though. And another, if I can kind of jump off that in a little bit of different direction though.
Sure, please.
So like light, that enables and I'm gonna. This is my opinion. If I step on toes, if I insult anybody,
go ahead.
And I'm not criticizing anyone that has to work third shift for a living. I would probably die. I talk about my going to bed early, so I have a lot of sympathy and respect for people who do that. But I think even they would agree that it's not possible if you take away the fluorescent lights, that are in the buildings, factories, wherever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
So like on the one hand, that light did allow us to now work 24 hours a day, whereas nobody would have ever thought about doing that. But on the other hand, all the inventions that were meant to simplify life, take a washer and a dryer,
Sure.
This will save you time because you don't have to hand wash your clothes. And it does if you can control yourself and your own mind. But we can't. So what have we done? And you can take any invention you can name. With the time that we saved, we automatically plug something else into that time. Mm-hmm. We don't leave it vacant. We don't leave it free for recreation or rest. We plug something else into it. So your technology hypothesis, it's dead on with that angle too, of that we've used technology to simplify our lives, but we didn't have the wisdom to kick back and enjoy it. We just kept kept doing more and more.
Yeah, I remember reading about in the, I guess really in the 50s, when a lot of those tools were becoming more available in the home. And I mean, and I know I'm misquoting, I'm not remembering it clearly, but men at the time, like men who worked out of the home or, at a job or whatever it was, were saying, what are our wives going to do with all that extra time they'll have,
Oh, yeah.
or what,
Yeah.
because of the microwave or the washing machines or, whatever it was that took away that indeed, you're right. I mean, as far as efficiency goes, saved so much time in getting this and that done. But you're right. I appreciate that, because I was only thinking of technology in terms of like media and of course fluorescence and light. But you're absolutely right that so much of that, because we think we gained time, but then we only were confronted with, well, how are we going to use it? Because again, somehow even deeper than technology in America, we are yearning to always stay active. Now, here's what really concerns me about this is that, and I'm seeing it. I guess working in the church kind of gives me that second glance into the lives of people in that respect, and I'm seeing this getting transferred over into people's kids. However, and maybe this is what concerns me the most, not only as a parent but as an observer, is it's like the kids are getting dropped onto your treadmill. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
When I was teaching music lessons, I had a student who came in. I think it was piano, maybe it was guitar, it doesn't matter. And he was wrecked. Just looked exhausted.
Oh,
and I was like, hey, what's up? And we got through the lesson and just kind of sleepy and droopy, but did okay. I mean, played well. It was all there. And at the end, I said, hey, hope you can go home and get some rest. And he said, oh no, I have to go to practice. I said, what practice? And it was some sport, and it was like 7:00 at night.
Man.
And I said, when did you get up this morning? And it was like 5 or 6.
Yeah.
And then I don't think it was the same person, or it was this person's parent, but it might have been, that I was talking to them at a later time, and they were telling me about, oh, I gotta take them here and there for this and that, and we gotta go here and there at this time and that time. And they were kind of whining about it, and about how much they had to do because of the sports that their child was involved in. Mm-hmm. And I'm listening, and they're just whining. Oh, you wouldn't believe what it's like to have to spend all your mornings and your evenings of your weekdays traveling to tournaments and all this stuff. And I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, did the child ask for this, or did you place this upon them? This expectation that if they're not doing something every moment of their day, that makes them less of a student. I mean, Tori and I talk about it all the time with the kids. Like, what are the limits going to be? How many sports can they do? How many extracurricular things at school can they do? Because a lot of these young people I work with, especially like cantors or instrumentalists or choir members or whoever, I mean, even those who aren't involved in sports, it's like a dozen things. It's band and choir and theater and key club and robotics. And I'm like, what? And that gravely concerns me, not only because, I mean, how are you making time for yourself? And also, and this is what I was trying to say about that parent, was when you tell me about these things you're doing, you don't sound happy about it at all.
No, nobody ever does. But when the decision is there on the table, it's like they can't say no. You can't say no. You've got to say yes to every opportunity, no matter how many hours are in the day. And not to go back too much on things we've talked about in past episodes, but what gets cut, what always gets cut. Family dinners get cut, prayer time gets cut, sleep, exercise, all the things that keep you happy and healthy.
Worship, yeah,
worship. That's what gets, because you've got to take the time from you're scheduling more than a day has time for, so you've got to cut something else out of your day. And the only thing that you can acceptably cut without anybody giving you flack about it are those things that keep you happy and healthy. And isn't that interesting? Nobody gives you flack if you don't get enough sleep. nobody gives you flack if you don't eat well. But if you're falling short on all of this busyness, on all of this, activities and events and all that, well, then you start getting the kind of sideways glance of, nobody ever says it to your face, but kind of the, like, well, are you antisocial? Are you lazy? Like, what's your why don't you get involved more?
Yeah.
And don't want to contradict, we were just telling people get involved with parish life. That's still true. So we're not going back on that.
Well, no, you're absolutely right, because and nor would we say, and I would never say this, that being you or having your child involved in sports or this or that is detrimental. Absolutely not. Like,
no, they're all healthy things.
They so many positive qualities come out of those community activities, those social activities. Yeah. But I'm looking at my young friends and thinking, how are you going to keep this up? And then if this is what you're teaching yourself now, what about when you become an adult? What kind of life are you going to live? Now, if we can kind of, I don't mean bring it home like come to an end. I mean, but let's take it to that next step. Because we've kind of established, and we barely even needed to. I think everyone who's listening is already nodding their head, saying, "Yep, I see that." Or maybe you see yourself in some of this. I see myself in some of it. And you're thinking, please.
Yeah, before you take us around that corner, I wanted to bounce this off you because I'm kind of thinking as I'm going here.
Let's hear it. Yeah, please.
As far as the how and the why that you were asking at the beginning there.
Oh, sure.
Because you see this mentality. Now, I've never been there personally, but you read about it. There are certain countries around the world that have this franticness. You hear about it. Well, we know firsthand that it's an American deal. And from what I hear, the Japanese are on board with it. There's the work till you drop. It's all about production type thing. But then you have these other countries that their culture is built around like leisure and relaxation. Like I'm thinking a lot of
siesta,
Latin American countries, European countries. So with that being the case, now this doesn't explain the Japanese. I don't know what their deal is, but
what do they do?
I don't know why they got to the point they're at, but,
Yeah.
I mean, do you think the Puritan heritage of America, the Puritan work ethic, that whole mentality of avoiding laziness and sloth at all cost, even to the point of overcorrecting, you think maybe that somehow is in everyone's psyche of like, we got to be busy. I don't know. I'm like I said, I'm thinking as we're going here.
I think that's a very interesting notion. I think I would need to learn a little bit more about when you say Puritan, you mean from a religious stance? Or do you mean the pure American spirit, like of the pioneers?
Like the pilgrims.
The pilgrims.
Like when the country, like when the country was actually being founded.
Yes.
But the mentality of those people obviously bled strongly into the American culture.
And certainly since they were literally building a country from the ground up.
Yeah, absolutely. They had to work hard.
I'd be very interested to look into that, especially with regard to our American culture, because you're right, on the global scale, you do see, especially in the East, but somewhat in the other parts of the West and in Europe. I feel like I'm always seeing some article or another about how in the Netherlands they only work 4 days a week and they only work from 10 to 4 or whatever. Or again, returning to our young friends, how in this, I really don't know. I'm just kind of I'm just spitballing. But in parts of Europe and this country or that, school days are 10 to 2, or I don't mean literally, but you know what I mean. Where and not 7 to 5, with activities on either end. I'd be very interested to look at that further. I think you're onto something, but I wouldn't say yes for sure. But my instinct says there's something there.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Just curious. And
No. That's excellent. But if we're going to take it up a notch, because we've been pondering this and we've left God almost entirely out of the equation, and so So if we're going to approach this, and frankly, if you're going to talk to someone, a friend, about this and say, look, I think maybe you're a little too busy, and they'd say, well, why can't I be? Why should I slow down? I'm getting so much done. What's wrong with the way I'm living? And so here, we're kind of putting on the judgmental pants a little bit, but at some point we have to say, look, the pace of life that you're instituting, and also how you're teaching your children or your neighbors. You're showing other people this is it. That's how it multiplies. You show each other this is the way to be. And so, what can Scripture show us? Okay, do you have any ideas, Ben?
And this is truly off the top of my head.
Let's hear it.
Somebody's probably thinking that we planned this out, and I've got the verse in front of me.
I have no idea what you're going to say.
Off the top of my head, and I don't even know the verse. Maybe you can help me out there. The "Be still and know that I am God."
Mm-hmm. Psalm 46. Yeah.
Psalm 46. There you go. How can you be still if you are frantic, chaotic, and like what you said, and wrapping all that up in the word busy?
Mm-hmm.
You can't be still. And I've said it. I think I work it into every episode if I can. I mean, the silence being one of my biggest needs for my spiritual life. So that's first thing.
In the New American Standard Bible, which is the official translation of the Catholic Forge, thank you, John. The translation is "cease striving and know that I am God." But "be still" also, and that's certainly the more popular translation. The first thing I think of, and it returns in a way to the anxiety episode we did some time back or whenever it was, is that somewhat, I would say, relatively well-known passage from Luke 10. And I'll just quickly read it. I think you'll see what's going on here. As they were traveling along, Jesus entered a village, and a woman named Martha welcomed him into her home. Martha had a sister called Mary, and Mary was seated at Jesus' feet, listening to his word. Now, again, this is the New American Standard Bible translation, but I'm going to paraphrase it a little bit. But Martha was distracted with all her preparations. She was getting the chicken salad going, okay? She was getting the Chinese salad with the ramen that's not cooked, you know what I'm saying? She was getting that tater tot casserole going for Jesus. And Martha was distracted with this, and she came up to Jesus and said, "Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me with all this serving alone? Tell her to help me." And Jesus turned to her and said, "Martha, Martha, you are worried and bothered about so many things, but only one thing is necessary. For Mary has chosen the good part, which shall not be taken away from her." Now, first of all, you know that Jesus enjoyed that tater tot casserole. But Martha was so wrapped up in the tasks of the moment that she was not able to savor and to eat on the bread of life, Jesus himself. Whereas now see, it's tricky though, because you're familiar with that saying that you can be too heavenly minded for any earthly good, right? And we might say that about Martha, because you can see her there at Jesus' feet, enraptured with him, listening to his words, and Martha's in the background in the kitchen sweeping. She's got the, I don't know, whatever. She's just running around the house. And Mary is sitting there not doing anything at all. And so we kind of see two extremes in this example. But what Jesus says is really important though, because he cuts right to the middle of it, and he's saying the only thing is necessary is to be with me, so that he wouldn't tell her like stop doing what you're doing, but he'd say, are you with me in the midst of what you're doing, or has your busyness carried you so far away from me that you're only thinking about this and that and the other thing? For me, that's it. Like, that's such a great passage. Not only because it also plays to anxiety as a result of busyness. Jesus doesn't only say, he says, he starts, he says, you are worried and bothered about so many things, and so I just think that's really telling. And then, of course, if we just go back, hold on, let me hold there. I'm rushing too fast. Excuse me. My brain is busy. Anything? I mean,
you're frantic.
Yeah, I feel a little frantic. What do you think about that passage there? Anything to add, or your own perspective?
Yeah, I like it a lot, and to me, it highlights the fact that in all of your activities, you need to keep in mind that an activity, you need to know the difference between means and ends. Like if your kid, if you've got him involved in sports and band and whatever else, you need to remember that those things aren't necessarily an end in themselves.
Yeah.
That they are a means to form a well-rounded person, to form a person who, knows about teamwork or is cultured, by learning a musical instrument.
Yeah.
And the reason you want to do those things ultimately is to be a more complete human person and to be happy, to have a deeper level of human happiness.
Yeah.
So you always have to keep a watch out for when the means is frustrating the end, when it's no longer serving the end.
Sure.
So if you've got a kid that's literally on the verge of a nervous breakdown because of all this stuff they're doing. Oh, and I'm kind of sticking with your young person example, but adults too, for that matter. It doesn't matter how old you are. You have to remember, this isn't why I got into this in the first place. This isn't what it was supposed to do for me. And I mean, kind of like Martha, and you got to look in every single moment and every activity. Where is God in this? Mm-hmm. Where is God's will in this? Is this really what He wants me to be doing right now? Does He want me to be going to bed, pulling my hair out because of the day I had? No. Jesus is really clear in that passage. Absolutely not.
Absolutely. Saint Benedict famously coined the term in Latin, ora et labora. Pray and work, or pray and labor. And the Benedictine tradition, if you go to St. Meinrad's in Indiana, and I hope that you, Ben, would, but everyone would, you should definitely take a retreat there.
No, I've seen it.
You will. I mean, they really live that beautifully, that sentiment of working hard even, but making it also an offering of prayer, an offering of worship to God, whether it's peeling potatoes or building those, it seems weird to say, but building those beautiful coffins they do there, or whatever. I mean, anything, whatever it is, this combination of spiritual sentiment and physical action. Now, the other scripture that comes to mind is a big one. It's got 10 points. I bet you can guess what it is. The 10 Commandments from Exodus 20. Again, this is the NASB. And Exodus 20, verses 8 through 11. Here it is. Ready?
Hit me.
Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath of the Lord your God. In it, the seventh day, you shall not do any work, you or your son or your daughter, your male or your female servant, or your cattle, or your sojourner who stays with you. Okay? If abuela comes and stays with you, she can't work either. Okay? For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth and the sea and all that is in them, and then God rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. Now, without getting into the way we approach the Hebrew law in light of the gospel, let us just simply say that what we have been talking about, you and I, in this last bit of time, it is pointing us toward the remedy. Okay, not the Jason Mraz song, but if you are too busy, there is a remedy, and the remedy is rest. Okay, God rested. Okay, did all that work, and you're welcome. Okay, that's from Moana, and he did all that work, and then he took a sick day. He said, "Look, I gotta clock out on this one." Okay,
yeah.
The example was given by God Himself. Okay, that rest was essential after the good work had been done. And so, where do we find rest? Now we mentioned before our friend Thomas Edison. I don't know if he is a spiritual sponsor of the Catholic Forge or not. I don't know anything about him.
Yeah, we better check him out a little more.
We're gonna get the fact checkers on that. But he gave this quote. I thought it was just so pleasant. He said, "Being busy does not always mean real work. The object of all work is production or accomplishment, and to either of these ends there must be forethought, system, planning, intelligence, and honest purpose, as well as perspiration. Seeming to do is not doing." Now, I don't think that really addresses the issue of rest per se, but I think it's something that you said before, is that being busy does not always mean coming or going or zipping around or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So rest does not always mean flat on your back, you know.
Right.
Although I will say, I can't remember where the quote came from. Someone can text me if they remember who. I remember someone saying, though, not as universal truth, it was just like a hallmark sentiment. They said, whenever you get sick is when God is telling you you're going too fast. Now, I'm not. Maybe that's medically true. And when you're too busy and you go too hard, then your body suffers for it. Although that's probably true. But I appreciated the sentiment of it in that even your body, your flesh will tell you, hey,
Yeah.
pump those brakes, get more sleep.
Yeah.
Ben, you have the Zen. You are the Zen master of the Catholic Forge, there's no doubt.
Yeah.
How do you approach rest, like in your life, for your family, for yourself? What do you think? How do you, or in the context of this biblical idea, how do you keep Sabbath in your life?
That's been a big issue for me, actually, exploring that idea of, what it, like you said, I mean, our constraints under Hebrew law in light of the gospel, a little bit different. Of course, there's the clear exceptions for medical professions and that kind of thing. But as far as just my choices on Sunday, let's say, I feel like I need to rest a lot more than I do because I will end a weekend feeling more exhausted.
Yeah.
Come the end of Sunday, I'm more exhausted than I was at the end of Friday. and that signals to me I did something wrong because I finished my work week with more energy than I'm finishing my weekend.
Yeah.
I was probably on the run too much this weekend. I crammed. And there's the temptation to do that because you get these, which you work for the church, so, adjust the days. You get different days off, of course.
Right.
But, in general, the idea of a weekend, you have these 2 precious days to cram everything that you've wanted to do for the past 5 days, to cram it in there. And then with the impending panic of once Monday gets here, then the clock resets and I have to wait another 5 days before I get back to whatever this is I'm wanting to do.
Sure.
So, man, it's really tempting to just run all weekend. But one thing for me that helps me have a really restful Sabbath, and of course we drive to Mass, but once we get back home from Mass, if I don't step foot in a car again, if I don't drive anywhere or ride anywhere, that's incredibly restful for me, just being at home the rest of the day.
Sure.
Not everybody's the same way, but for me, it's stressful getting out in traffic and just, I drive every day of the week, going to work. And that's one little thing that I really like. That at the end of the day, I can tell, like if I just have like a peaceful rested, I'm like, oh, I've been at home all day. I didn't get out, running around town, spending 3 hours hopping from store to store, running errands, whatever. Other people, like my wife, kind of enjoyable for her. Because she stays home with the kids during the week. So on the weekend, she loves to hop in the van and run around. That's rejuvenating for her to get out. So,
sure. Yeah.
I think that particular example depends on your situation, but I need to do a better job. And this is every day of the week. And I think I'd like to meet an American who, so far I haven't met one that can't say this, but I need to get more sleep. I need to get in bed earlier, get more sleep.
Yeah.
I think most of us have gotten used to a certain level of sleep deprivation as our normal setting. So much so that we don't even know what it would feel like to be truly rested.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Like seriously, I know that's where I am. I know that. And every parent out there, it's not exactly by choice once you have little kids. I mean, there's a certain level of sleep deprivation that comes along with that you can't help. But I honestly, looking back, like before our first kid was born, Evie, I don't remember what it feels like to get 8.5 hours of unbroken sleep. I mean, do you? Like, I don't know if you've had that experience recently, but.
Well, I would like to say before the whole world that I appreciate my wife who gets up with the kids every day. So now that being said, that means half the time 2 children suddenly appear on top of my body at 7 a.m.
And that's how you wake up.
Say, oh no. But it's, I mean, you know, would you take it over anything else? Of course not. I guess.
Oh yeah, it's worth it.
I didn't say that right, but yeah, it's worth it. But you're right. You have to know yourself. We talked about quality time, and the quality time we're very self-referential in this episode. I'm sorry about that, but
it all comes back around.
But there is such a connectivity here, and so many of those other things that we've been talking about, anxiety, quality time, has so much to do with how you approach spending the rest of your time. You know, how to make the best of quality time. Prepare for it. You know, don't run yourself into the ground so hard that when the time finally arrives and you're going to whatever, Stranger Things season 2 comes out, you know, and you're excited for it, but you're so tired, you know, from being busy that you have no will to do it, or you want to do it, but you're exhausted. I mean, that's a bad example, but you know, for me, that there's so much connectivity here, and I feel so concerned about it, because in my own life, I'm looking at all the things I do, the things I want to do, all these projects I kind of have irons in the fire, and I'm thinking, you know what? I'm not going to be able to do all these things.
Right.
If I did, I would break. You know, if I pursued all of these things simultaneously, I would break, and then I would just be no good to anyone. And it's hard to set some of those things down. But listen. Why I refuse to buy into the lie of busyness is because I love the things that make me feel happy. Okay, that give escape to my imagination, and I mean video games. And forgive me, you know, like I'm not trying to make a stance on gaming or anything like that, but you know, if you read, if you listen to music, if you play music, if you go for walks, if you exercise, which would be a good thing to do more of, but if those are things that give your imagination an escape from the rigmarole, from the monotony of life, or from the stress and the demand of life, do not sacrifice those things. Especially, do not sacrifice the sweetest refreshment of all, found in the sacrament of the Eucharist. Okay, that's sweet. That's a term attributed to the Holy Spirit in the Pentecost sequence. Sweet refreshment the Holy Spirit gives us in the graces of the church. Okay, if you have to give up even video games, do not give up your worship. Do not give up the worship life that you and your family share. That must be protected above all. But oh, Ben, how sad and sorrowful it is to see so many families falling away because church, for whatever reason, we don't know. I'm not sitting here pretending to know why, but to see how far it has fallen down the ladder of priorities. You know?
Oh no, it has, and I'll put, like you said, I mean, I'll put on my judgmental pants, I guess.
There it is.
I spend a lot of time in them. They're tailored. They look good on me at this point.
Tailored.
But you know,
your Hugo Boss judgmental suit.
Yeah, I look so good in it. I just can't take it off at this point.
Oh my gosh!
No, I've heard so many people say they just don't have time. Like, well, yeah, we just haven't really gone to church in a while. We just don't have time. They say we're so busy.
There it is. Yep.
That Sunday morning is our only time to sleep in, or it's our only morning to rest. And it's like, okay, well then you need to change something else about your week so that you have the time and energy to go to mass on. Or you know what? That's the beauty of for all the Catholic listeners out there, you can go Saturday evening. You know, if you want to leave that Sunday morning open for sleeping in, go for it. You got Saturday evening mass you can go to. That's like I said, one of the perks of being Catholic.
Sure, absolutely, yeah. And that's I just want to make one more point, and then you can take it home. But what you said is so telling, because and this is really, I promise, my last thought on this is that people will use busyness as an excuse, and they'll get away with it 100% of the time. Because remember, let us return 43 minutes to the past when we established that. Don't rewind it, but just I'll tell you what we said if you forgot. That because busyness is the norm for American living, When you say, "Oh, I'm really busy," they say, "Great. What have you been doing?" You're applauded for it. You are affirmed for being busy. So when
like a hero.
when Ben calls me and says, "Man, I really gotta talk to you about something," and I say, "Oh, Ben, I'm just so busy," and then Ben says, "Oh, I understand. Well, maybe another time," and then Ben is never heard from again. I mean, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Not that would ever happen, but what if you said back to me, if I told you, like, you needed to talk to me about whatever, you said, I need to talk to you, man. Do you have some time? Ben, I'm really busy. And then you say to me, well, get some rest. Oh, okay, I'll do that. And whenever I think is restful is just more busyness. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Busyness has become such a universal excuse. And I know in my own life, there have been times when I've been tempted to say yes, because I know it will get me 1,000,000% off the hook.
Yeah.
Because people are like, can you do this? Can you do that? Can you talk? Can you do this? I'm just really busy. Sorry. But what I've been trying to do is when someone asks me, are you busy? I'll say, no, not busy at all. I've got a lot going on, because I would not want anyone to think that by being busy, I am inaccessible. Do you see?
Right. Yeah.
This is so important to me, because I feel the temptation to wear it like a blanket, like that custom fit Hugo Boss judgmental suit. So comfortable, and it feels so good. Oh, I know I can just hide in here and no one can get to me. It is so tempting, because that since it is the norm, people will respect you if you say that you're busy, but you can cut yourself off here again from the things of the highest value. What did Jesus say? Only one thing is necessary, and Mary has chosen the better part, to be with me. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I would urge you, reject outright the lie of busyness, or even from the profession of faith. Well, not from the profession of faith, but from I can't think of the term now. We say Satan and all his empty lies or empty show. The empty promise of busyness, the lie of busyness. Reject it outright in your life, and just watch. Just watch to see how this change in thinking will bring a new season of happiness and freshness into your life. I believe it will. I'm searching for it myself every day. Ben, take us home.
No, I think, man, that's perfectly said. And my hope is that one day, and when this is very wishful thinking, I don't see culture changing, but my hope is that one day you can not feel that, nobody needs to feel that pressure to lie and say that, or to say that they're busy to get off the hook, that we'll live in a culture that respects downtime and respects rejuvenation and recreation, so that, like if my true answer, say I've been waiting all week and haven't had time, but I've been waiting all week, and on Sunday afternoon, I've got a little 30-minute window to play my guitar. And I've been looking forward to it. Like, man, I'm going to play my guitar at 2 on Sunday afternoon. I don't feel like that's a valid excuse. In our culture, if somebody calls me up and wants something of me at that time, I don't feel free right now in our culture to say, I really can't, because I had scheduled a little time for myself to play my guitar. That's where that temptation, that lie of busyness of saying, but if I say, I'm really busy, like you said, it's tempting to use, because it's a guaranteed, understood, off the hook answer. So yeah, I hope one day everybody will get to a little healthier place with the whole idea and the word busyness. In fact, why don't we challenge it? Let's try to remove busyness from the vocabulary, unless it's the absolute only word that truly fits the situation.
I will accept your challenge. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
You heard it here. Catholic Forge. The word busy is being removed from the English language.
Strike it from all your dictionaries. Go to your local library with a Sharpie and do God's work. This has been the Catholic Forge. Thank you for listening, and we'd like to close, as always, with a prayer and a blessing. May God the Father,
God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit bless you, guard you, and lead you to eternal life. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen. Thank you for listening to The Catholic Forge. We hope you've enjoyed this episode and will leave us a positive rating and review on iTunes, SoundCloud, or YouTube. You can continue the conversation with us on Facebook and Twitter. Let us know how many libraries you invaded. And to get a hold of us, you can reach us at thecatholicforge@gmail.com. For more information regarding the podcast, to find links to our SoundCloud files and all that kind of stuff, visit our website at www.thecatholicforge.com. We especially thank our restorative wives. Yes, when we are downtrodden by our busyness, they restore us. We thank them for their support of this project, and we thank you very much for listening.